main thing I want this podcast to be about, okay, is about us being friends, all right, and we fucking love guns.
All right, welcome to the 2A Brotherhood podcast.
Welcome to tonight's episode of Pageant Moms.
We have a special guest on tonight. His Josh. He's a master shooter, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Josh Morgan. I'm a USPSA production master. I also have 2 master ratings in IDPA. And so I'm a good buddy with Eric and Blake, you guys had on last week. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk a little bit about competition shooting. I don't get a chance to nerd out as much as I'd like to. So I'm excited to be here, and thank you guys for having me tonight.
Hey,
Thanks for getting on here with us.
Being old, man.
we really appreciate it. And awesome intro, too, man. That was very well spoken and articulate. Not like them other hoo-has we have on here. I'm just
Very professional.
Yeah, Eric and Blake, that was a great podcast. Shout out
Yeah.
to those guys. That was almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
So
Great guys
Awesome
too.
people,
Yeah.
man.
we had,
Awesome.
but yeah. So go ahead, Dimitri.
Not Eric tagged Josh in one of our posts from the podcast last week, and he said he'd do it, so I hopped on it. I was like, "We're free this Friday." He was like, "I'll get on."
Yeah, it worked out great. Yep.
Yeah.
Here's for anybody in the chat who wants to check it out. I have here Josh Morgan's Instagram right here. Shoot more, miss less. Go ahead and give it a follow. Also, same for TikTok here. So go check him out. I gotta log in. Check him out. Give him a follow. I'll post the links in the description in the chat. So here you go. So go ahead,
Josh,
Dimitri.
just tell us about yourself, man. I know you said you're a master. That can't be easy to acquire, right?
Yeah, so I started shooting. My first match ever was December 2020. I was one of those COVID gun owners. And so I had shot my entire life growing up, but I really got into defensive firearm shooting around COVID for obvious reasons. And so took a bunch of classes, and I began to realize that the classes I was taking, I took the entire USCCA defensive curriculum. The standards in those classes didn't meet what I was seeing in the evidence-based training that like people like John Correa were putting out, people like Tom Givens. The standards weren't quite matching, and so I had to find a way to push myself to be faster and push myself to be more accurate. And so competition was where I found that. So since December 2020, I've shot 281 recorded matches.
Damn.
I started in IDPA, which is a very slow game. It's very accuracy driven. And then I made the switch to USPSA about 2 years ago. And I have been with USPSA almost exclusively since that time. So I started pretty much the lowest you can get in both games, and sort of worked my way up incrementally. I didn't just start really good. There are some people who do, and that's awesome. But I sort of had to grind my way through that. So along the way, I earned myself a C-class national championship, which no one cares about, but I have it. And I've also won 2 production sectional titles in Western Pennsylvania, which are my 2 most proud, I guess, matches, winning a division at a major match. So that's sort of how I got into it. I had a lot of phenomenal mentors along the way. And I have a couple of awesome sponsors who help me out now. So Anchor Point Holsters and Warhorse Ordnance have both been a huge part of my 2023, 2024 season, and excited to continue with them into 2025.
Yeah, Eric was telling us about Warhorse, the belts and the Anchor Point mags. That's what we're gonna get, and hopefully they'll be at the house by the time we come and train with you. So, I don't know.
Yeah,
How's their
absolutely.
shipping? Is it good?
Shipping's great. So I was a big, I did a lot of work with Warhorse on their level 3. My path to Warhorse was kind of interesting. So I bought a belt from them and wasn't too pleased with it. And so I sent him an email letting him know, hey, I think your belt's got problems. And in 48 hours, I was on a Zoom call with him, talking about what it would take to make the belt better and what we could do to sort of tailor it to what a competitor's needs were. And I can't think of any other company I've emailed with a complaint and gotten a Zoom call with the owners,
right,
to help hash it out. And so that was really awesome. And then a couple months later, I was offered a spot on their pro staff as the team captain. So I get to captain the Anchor Point pro staff, which has been an exciting, or Anchor Point and Warhorse, but captain the Warhorse team, which is an exciting experience as well.
No. So you and Eric and Blake, I think was it? I think Kyle from Cock Firearms mentioned Warhorse too. So a lot of people are recommending it. So
yeah,
and these guys they've been shooting a while. They obviously they have credentials. They're professionals. They run their own businesses. They're firearms trainers. So it's worth.
They know, right?
Yeah, they know it's worth looking into, at least for people who are new stepping into this arena. So yeah. What was it called? Anchor Point what? Holsters?
Yeah, Anchor Point Holsters, and then Warhorse Ordnance does the belts that I shoot off of.
Yeah. So,
and what's your? Do you have a code for them that you want to say?
Yeah, yeah. So if you use Shoot More, it's going to be 15% off both places. So.
Oh wow!
All right.
Say that code one more time, please.
Shoot More.
Oh, Shoot More. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I wish that ammo wasn't so expensive right now.
Yeah,
I'd shoot more.
For sure, yeah. Gotta get yourself a press, man. I cranked out 400 rounds for this match tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
Wow. I'm scared I'm gonna put too much gunpowder in there, and then turn my gun into a hand grenade.
Hey, I'll tell you what. I never shot the first 4 rounds I loaded. I did not shoot them. So I get that concern.
Do you still have them?
I do. They're in my do not shoot ever bag.
But they must be plus.
Yeah. Where that grain weight might have been 3.6, it might have been 4.8. We don't really know.
Let's give it to a different competitor and let him try it out. Hey, buddy, here's some ammo.
Yeah, Rob gave me what were they from my concealed carry? The Rangers, Rob? SP Plus or something like that?
No, that Federal HST.
Yeah.
Plus 2.
And I had them for 6 months in there, so I got to shoot them last time we went to the range. And I have a G43X, so it's already tiny. And then with those in it, it had a lot more snap in it than the regular.
Had to leave a smoke trail too.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a good amount of powder behind those.
Right.
Yeah. And at first I got caught off guard because I was like, "What?" I was like, "What's going on?" And then he whispers in my ear, "Those what are they again?
HST.
HSTs have more kick to them. I was like, oh yeah, that's why this thing is like.
Like plus P's.
That's a great round, though.
Mm-hmm.
Federal HST is a phenomenal round. So
Yeah, I think there was 124 grain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, everything that I
Yeah.
have on my guns or bullet wise, I just ask Rob. He's our gun guy.
I wouldn't go that far.
You know you are.
Well, you're our gun guy. How about that?
Look at you making me feel special. I'm blushing, man.
I can tell.
Oh,
He's
no.
light skinned.
Rosy red cheeks, right?
You got to stay hood, man. Don't let them know.
Hey, Josh, I texted us those questions in the group chat.
Yeah.
That I had.
Okay.
I can't look it up on my end.
I got you.
So what got you into competition shooting?
Yeah, so I really found a disconnect between the stereotypical defensive instructor and what the evidence of defensive encounters was showing us. So there were instructors out there preaching sub 2-second draw was sufficient. And then you go and watch some of John Correa's analysis, and there are people that are getting smoked with a 1.5 draw, and you're like, okay, well, 2 seconds clearly not sufficient, right? So, and really to look at it from a metric perspective when you're looking at the defensive classes and to assign numbers to incidences we really can't anticipate, right? You don't know if you need a 2 second, you don't know if you need a 1 second draw, you don't know what your time frame is. So to be able to push yourself to the limit is something that I find really important defensively. And so I needed to find a place to do that, and to do that with some accountability, and competition was the place to do it.
Okay. Is there any way that you like prep especially for a competition, and you feel like any of that has set you aside that has helped you on this road to becoming a master?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are a couple of major matches that I've shot throughout the course of my career as I've strived to increase in the ranks. And so you start to develop a little bit about what each match is going to tell you. And so like, I know when I'm showing up to nationals, I'm expecting 15 to 20 yard, really, really tight partials with not a lot of room for error. And so my match prep really is predicated upon what kind of match I'm going to. So looking at who the match director is, who are the stage designers, what is that match going to look like and ask of me technically? What's that match going to demand of me? And then sort of putting myself in uncomfortable situations, even if I can't fully replicate it, to sort of see if I can't get a little bit of that flavor before I go.
Okay. Do you do any like dry fire training or anything like in your spare time at home to also help improve, and help with your draw time and your shot fire time?
Yeah, absolutely. Not as much as I should, to be honest with you, and not as much as I did in the past. So a lot of the breakthroughs that I'm having right now are in live fire, and I'm not quite able to duplicate exactly what I'm doing in dry fire. I'm still working a lot on the mental discipline of holding myself accountable to sight pictures and trigger presses in dry fire. Because as soon as I go to live fire, I have this tempo that I'm trying to like force myself to keep, even if it's not an appropriate tempo for the target's distance and difficulty. So I should do more of it. But right now, a lot of the things that I'm trying to force myself to do, I'm finding that I need to be in live fire. And usually I need to be trying to beat somebody in order to force myself to be accountable.
Yeah. Live fire is a little bit more expensive though, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Do you use any special rounds or anything, or training tools for dry fire? I've heard a couple of things going around with some dry fire training tools that actually link to your phone. Use anything special like that, or just standard dry fire?
Yeah, so when I started, I tried a little bit to mess around with like the Mantis, and what I realized was what the Mantis was telling me was what the lowest common denominator was doing, not necessarily what I was doing. So the Mantis detected an input to the gun and just took, of all the things that could have caused that input, here's the one that most people do. And fortunately or unfortunately, there's very few things on that list of things that people do wrong that I'm currently doing. And so I found it to become obsolete pretty quickly. So it's a fun game. It's a cool thing to try and to test yourself on. But if you're getting inputs that don't necessarily correlate to what you feel in the gun, don't be surprised. There is a chance you're doing something different than what the system is thinking you're doing.
I gotcha. Yeah. So you said that you started around COVID time, around 2020, and you said you're a master in both USPCA and IDPA. So how long did that take you to get both of those? What was the journey like to get both of those? And I believe you said you started at IDPA. How long did it take you to get on that, first of all?
Yeah, so I started IDPA probably 8 months into getting a gun, or getting a handgun rather. I really dove headfirst in there. From starting to actually making master, I want to say it was 2 years in IDPA. I probably should have been able to do it faster. I unfortunately put myself in positions with IDPA where I was focused on the more of the equipment, less of the shooting skill. So I kind of delayed my own development there. And then I also didn't shoot any USPSA during those first 2 years. And what I found is USPSA will develop you a lot faster as a shooter. So it took me about 2 years to make master in IDPA, and then I went over to USPSA, and it took me probably 18 months when I made that switch.
What's the difference between the two competitions?
Yeah, so the primary difference is going to be in the stages and the scoring. So in IDPA, you're scored in penalties. So essentially you shoot your course of fire, you get whatever time it took you to shoot it, and then we start adding penalties from there. So if your shot landed outside of the down zero, which would be essentially outside of the high thoracic cavity, that's a second penalty for every shot that lands out of there. And then there's also other negative penalties along the way. In USPSA, it's a little bit different. So in USPSA, you're trying to earn points, and then it's divided by the time it took you to earn those points to give you something called a hit factor. And then when you get into hit factors, your hit factor is scored against everybody else in your division, and then you're allotted match points based on how your hit factor turns out compared to everybody else. Hit factor math is like a whole 3-hour discussion, but they're scored very differently. From a practical perspective, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
So from a practical perspective, IDPA is going to have a lot more rules. You're going to be you're going to shoot very prescribed courses of fire, and your accuracy penalties are going to be very, very high. In USPSA, you have a lot more freedom to sort of make your own decisions about how you attack the stage. And your accuracy penalties are going to be a lot less, assuming that you're able to conduct that course fast enough.
Okay. So do you suggest for new competitors to start with IDPA?
Yeah, so I would actually go the other way. So it depends on what you want to get out of it. If you are nervous about getting into competition and you're like, I don't think I'm able to mentally process everything I need to shoot a course safely without knowing exactly where I have to go, IDPA is a great starting point, but I would say move into USPSA as soon as you're comfortable. I learned more in my first 6 months shooting USPSA than I did in my first 2 years in IDPA.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
The skill level difference is pretty drastic. The best IDPA shooters in the world are people who got good in USPSA.
Okay. So what it sounds like to me is the IDPA competitions. It's like, okay, you're gonna sit here, you're gonna shoot this, you're gonna shoot that, you're gonna shoot this, you're gonna move here. And USPCA is like, here's your stage, attack it. Is that what I'm getting out of it?
Yeah, no, that is a great way to put it. An IDPA, run here, shoot these targets in this order, otherwise penalties. USPSA, here is your stage. However you want to attack it for you as a shooter, for your division, the best way you can do it, go after it.
It's a lot less rules, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, very strict safety rules in both games. The safety rules are very similar, but yeah, in USPSA, it's on you to be the most effective shooter you can be.
Have you ever thought about 3-gun?
You know, I have, but in my mind, I'm still scratching the surface of what I'm capable of with a handgun. And so to dabble super heavily into rifle or shotgun isn't really something that I have the bandwidth for right now. Maybe someday.
Are you do you shoot a lot with a rifle, or are you mainly just pistol? Do you throw any like rounds down for rifle, like generally through the year, and if so, how much?
If I shoot 500 rifle rounds a year, that would be a good year for me. Comparatively, I'll burn 12 to 13,000 handgun rounds a year. Right now, I've gone as high as 25, I think, in my first year.
1,000, not 100.
Yeah, no, 1,000. Yeah.
Jeez.
I don't want to see your ammo bill.
Yeah, it's a lot. And unfortunately, looking back at it, a lot of it was wasted. I could have been a lot better if I had paid more attention to the good shooters around me. But
hindsight's 20/20, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. We definitely learn from our mistakes, but unfortunately, you can't go back and fix them. You know.
Yeah.
What's your competition gun?
So right now, I just switched over to a Shadow 2. I was on a 320 Legion for a vast majority of my shooting career. And I'm sort of looking at international matches now and what's required from the international scene. And CZs are dominating everywhere in the world. So it was time for me to pick up a Shadow 2 and learn how to shoot that gun.
I'm gonna look that up. What does that look like?
International matches. How's that? You said you were looking into it. How's that work? I imagine a lot of, I mean, I know that a lot of different countries aren't nearly as lenient with guns as we are. I imagine traveling with, a handgun or any firearm for that matter is a process.
Yeah, so I haven't had a chance to go foreign quite yet. Yeah, that's it.
Nice.
Right.
Yep, and I'm a production shooter, so iron sights only, and I got 15 rounds.
All right.
But internationally, if you apply for that match and you get in, they'll send you a official invitation. So there's an international organization called IPSC, which USPSA is actually like the regional member for America of the larger international IPSC. And so that organization is pretty good at hosting matches where you can get in. There's obviously a lot of paperwork both in the export and in the import of firearms, and it really depends on which country you're going to. But it's certainly possible.
What countries are you taking a look at right now?
So right now, it really depends on what the next couple of years look like. I'd love to go to, I'm going to butcher the name, Curacao. And then there's a couple of matches that are held in like the Czech Republic, a couple in France that are interesting. I don't necessarily know if I'll go, but I do want to shoot under the international format because if in 8 years, 12 years down the line, I'm able to qualify for a world shoot team, that's my ultimate goal looking at the next 10, 15 years.
Have you ever thought about taking a match in North Korea?
I don't think so. I don't think they have the right import laws.
You can get in, you just can't get out.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, North Korea, they deployed troops to Russia, right, for training purposes. Just wanted to put that out there.
I heard North Korea did deploy troops to help the fight in Ukraine. So Ukraine might be a good place to go train and shoot.
With the TikTok brigade.
I'll stay out of that world.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, good. Did you get my email, Dimitri?
I didn't know you sent me an email.
Yeah, I sent you an email. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
That's the International Practical Shooting Confederation.
Yep, IPSC or IPSC if you're slanging it.
Mm-hmm.
I will post the link to the chat if anybody wants to see. Sorry, go ahead.
So earlier you mentioned that you made some mistakes on your journey. Would you mind sharing them so other people can possibly avoid them?
Possibly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So the first thing that I really struggled with that I had to overcome to sort of break through that barrier into masterclass was learning to be okay with making mistakes. So a lot of times when I was training to shoot a drill in a specific structured time with specific structured hits. And if I didn't get those hits, I was like, it's a failed drill, right? So if I shot a delta during a bill drill, I'm like, man, that was a failed bill drill. And in reality, it's a learning experience, right? So I was focused on the failure. I wasn't focused on the learning, right? And so if you never fail in training, you're never learning, one, what causes the failures, and two, you're never pushing yourself to try and correct those at speed. And so if I had become more comfortable with failure earlier in my shooting career, I would have learned a lot of things down the road that it took me much longer if I just been okay with it.
That's some good advice.
Yeah, that's some pretty deep stuff, man.
Right. Do you have any
shooting?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, shooting really is like it is a huge mental game. I'm a big Steve Anderson fan. He's sort of the father of the mental game in practical shooting. And I listen to all of his podcasts. And he talks a lot about the impact that you have in your own shooting and that you are the shooter that you believe you are in your own mind, right? There are very few people who don't possess the technical skill to shoot a match. The question is, do you have the mindset and do you have the mental fortitude to hold yourself accountable to those fundamentals at the speed at which you're trying to shoot? And he equates it to your classification percent. So every shooter in USPSA has a percentage. So I'm an 88% shooter. And if you were to ask Steve Anderson, that means 88% of my shooting is mental. There's 12% fundamentals that I'm executing on, but 88% is how I'm able to self-talk, but also to mentally program my stage.
Wow.
So you did good.
I was gonna say, yeah, the mentality. People don't realize like how much your mind could either push you forward or hold you back. Just clearing your mind and just being able to push through more than what you know you're capable of. And it really makes a difference on what you're able to do, because it can really hold you back, and or vice versa. Having a good mentality can really boost you and help you go further than you thought you were capable of.
Yeah, I've never met someone who won a major match and thought, man, that surprised me. I didn't think I could do it. Like everybody who's out there winning are people who showed up with the expectation to win. And they bought themselves that skill set in their preparation up to that point. But they woke up that day and they were going to that match to win.
Yeah, that's some advice you can use in like every facet of your life too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not just shooting,
I think there are some incredible life lessons to be found in practical shooting. where there's just so much of it, right? Like you make a mistake in a match, like you got to leave it behind. Like, and the same is true in life, right? If you're dwelling on those mistakes, you're going to compound it, and you're gonna create bigger problems for yourself. But if you let it go and you focus on correcting it and moving forward, there's just a lot of lessons I think to be found there in the mental side of it.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So we have a couple other questions we want to go through. So we typically do this kind of thing when we have like instructors and everything on. So these are just basic questions, making sure like at least for, like some of the new people who are getting into shooting can get a better
Which
idea
is us.
and be more confident and stuff, and just to see like, oh, okay, well, we have professionals here that are, they deal with this on a daily basis. So let me go ahead and pull it up real quick.
Yeah, we're selfish. We're trying to learn and meet people. So it's
Hey,
like,
look,
Yeah.
Network.
it's first for us. It's first for us, everybody.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that people
absolutely.
come on and just be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm talking so much. It's like, no, we will let you take control of the podcast and talk all you want, as long as we're just here just writing notes. That's like, so not only is it a benefit to us, but everybody watching. So
Never let that mindset change. Like that will take you a long way in shooting. There's never a point where you're going to be done learning.
you come across people who are stubborn and like not willing to learn a lesson the hard way, or
Yeah, absolutely. And usually they stay at their class for the rest of their life. Like if you meet a guy who's been in B class for the last 20 years, chances are he's got a pretty ingrained idea of how shooting should be. Like he's gonna give you a pretty good idea just by listening to that person talk. Hey, that's someone who's been in this class for a while, and that's someone who's going to remain in this class. Because they're limiting themselves. They're saying things like, I don't want to compare myself to that shooter because I'm not that good, or I don't do it this way because I do it this way instead. And it's like, okay, yeah, dude, but you're not winning. So like your way is clearly not effective here. And not only are you not winning, you're not in the conversation to win. So you might find a way that works for you, but it is not the way that's it's just not the way that's going to work for the metric that you're scoring yourself on. And that doesn't mean there can't be accommodations for people who obviously need it, right? But if you are going in there and limiting yourself in your own mind and your own speech and how you view yourself as a shooter, and you say, oh, I can't do that. I can't shoot that fast and hit all alphas, or I can't move that fast and shoot at the same time. Like those are people who are not going to increase their classification. Those are people who are not going to progress through the game. And there's absolutely a place for those people in this world. But they're not people you're going to learn from.
Yeah.
You could learn up to like a B or whatever their status is, like a B shooter or a C shooter, But so any tips and tricks to shoot? So my issue when I shoot all the time, I always shoot low left. So we've had a couple people on here, and so Blake gave us a trick, like loosen up your trigger finger hand and grasp sturdy with the other one with your support hand. And it was Blake. Eric said the same thing, and we had this guy from Citizens Defense, and he said that helped out a lot.
Yeah. So what I'm going to say is going to sound very, very simple, and I don't mean it to come across in any way other than educational. All right.
Hurt my feelings, dude.
But the reason the round is going low left is because the split second before the shot breaks, your sights are to the low left of your original point of aim. That's the reality of it. Your dot or your sight picture is dropping at some point. Now, what's causing that? We'd have to see you shoot and break it down. And typically it is a support hand pressure problem. But the reality for any time we miss or any time our point of aim, point of impact is different, is because our gun was pointed at that point when the
Mhm.
trigger broke.
Mhm.
And so then we as shooters have to slow down in our own minds, not physically slow down, never do that,
Mhm.
but in our own minds to analyze what are we doing, what input are we putting into the gun that's causing that shift. And so that's a very broad question,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of things that can cause it. But by focusing on the result and backtracking, we can find a lot within ourselves as shooters, a lot within what we're doing with the gun, as opposed to starting at the gun and trying to
Mhm.
figure out, oh, well, maybe my grip is wrong. Let me try that. And then you shoot low left again, and you're like, ah, well, it wasn't the grip. Maybe it's my trigger finger. And it's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, let's look at the sight picture. What are the sights telling you? And then working from there.
Mhm.
So you since you shoot irons on your gun, do you know look to the back sight and the front? Some people say you can just focus on the front sight. You know what I mean? How do
Mhm.
you do it?
Yeah, so I'm a target focused shooter pretty much 100% of the time.
Mhm.
On a really, really far target, my vision might come in a little bit to the front sight, but almost always my target is in focus, my sights are blurry, and then I'm still making adjustments, but I can
Mhm.
tell where my front sight and my rear sight are relative to themselves
Mhm.
um, in that blurry state. I don't have to see a really crisp and refined front sight to make accurate shots. And that is not something that came overnight. That was a long, long process.
Mhm.
Um, to learn how to shoot that way and to learn what an appropriate sight picture looks like at a given distance and difficulty when you
Mhm.
aren't seeing the sights in focus. So if you can't do that and you're listening to this, please do not stress. It is a learned behavior. It is a learned skill set. It's something that has been bought and paid for through range time and rounds down range, but it is possible.
Cool.
Tens of thousands of rounds downrange.
Good question. 20,000s. Oh man.
A lot of rounds downrange.
So would you ever put a red, do a match with a red dot instead of irons, or?
Yeah, so I have an IDPA master rating in carry optics. I
Mm.
did spend time in carry optics, and when I originally went over to USPSA, I was shooting a dot.
Mhm.
But in USPSA, when you're shooting in carry optics, you get 24 rounds. You get a dot that tells you exactly where that bullet's going to go. And in a 24 round magazine, if you're shooting a 16 round stage, you have absolutely no incentive to be accountable other than the time it takes to shoot makeup shots. So
Mhm.
you can just walk bullets into the A zone and you're A-okay as long as you do it faster than everybody else. And I really didn't like that in myself. I didn't like the fact that I was okay with that to get the result in the match. And I was like, man, I really do not want to be okay as a shooter
Mhm.
slinging rounds down the target until I get the hits I want. So switched over to production, which at that time was 10 rounds, which you really, really have to be accountable for
Mhm.
because then you're doing standing loads, and my ego can't stay standing in one spot and doing a reload stationary, just wasted time. And so that's sort of what led my shift to irons, and I sort of stuck with it because I feel like there's still so much more to learn.
Mhm.
I'm learning more and more every single week
Mhm.
when I'm going out and shooting. And there's a couple of my shooting buddies in the chat, but I go and shoot with those guys every week, and I'm still learning a lot. And so someday
Mhm.
when I go back to a dot and my eyes are used to doing the trigonometry required to shoot iron sights,
Mhm.
and now all I have to do is find the dot on the acceptable scoring zone, I'm excited for that day.
So,
So when
so
you oh, go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, so would you say you suggest that someone should start shooting with irons? Some people say, start shooting with irons and then go to a dot, or do you think that matters, or you know what I mean?
Yeah. So my question for that would be like, what are you looking to get out of it?
Mm-hmm.
If you are someone who shoots 1,000 rounds a year and you just want to be able to shoot proficiently, the red dot is the way. It is faster. It is more accurate. It requires less visual processing. The red dot is the superior sighting method. We see this pretty much in every time red dots and irons have shot against each other.
Mhm.
If you are someone who is looking for the grind and you're looking to be the best mechanical shooter you could possibly be, spend some time on dots. There's a lot to be learned there, but don't be afraid to make that switch. Shoot irons for a couple of years. See what you can learn there. I am someone who does this for the grind. I'm someone who's like, man, if I get 0.02% better every week, that's awesome. I love that. And not everybody is like that, and that's okay. So depends on what you want to get out of your shooting.
Do you well, I guess this is a double-sided question. Do you carry concealed carry or open carry? And if so, do you keep your carry weapon with irons or with a dot?
Yeah, so I do conceal carry, and I carry on irons.
Okay.
That is simply because I...
Go ahead. I was about to ask
Yeah.
why.
Oh, okay, yeah. That's simply because I haven't found a small enough dot that fits the footprint for the guns I carry right now. That is reliable enough for me. If I was carrying a full-size gun and I had the ability to mount with an RMR on it, then I'd probably be okay with that. But for me right now, irons are just fine. I'm also not super worried about the technical ability that I'm losing, because I've been shooting irons for so long now. Like I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, you most likely could win a gunfight. Yeah.
I sure hope so. It'd be really annoying if I lose.
I don't think you'd have to worry about embarrassment, but okay, so that leads me into a second question, because me and Dimitri were actually talking about this earlier, and we were, I think yesterday, we were debating this: appendix or hip.
Oh yeah,
whatever works for you, in your life. If you are fast enough in the metrics that you are using, whatever fits your best, whatever fits your needs. I carry strong side because that's how I've trained to carry. That's how I'm proficient with it. That's the way that fits into my everyday life the best for me. That's not to say there's anything wrong with appendix carry, and it's not to say I won't go to appendix carry if someday I find those metrics to be better.
Okay.
Yeah, we had Walker Tactical on here a couple months ago, and so I used to appendix carry, and then now I switched over to the hip, which is so much more comfortable for me. But we how many videos did we see of people shooting themselves in the dick? Podcast, like 3 or 4. I was like, all right, I'm just going to put it on my hip. Like, at least this way, I might shoot myself in the leg, but I'll still have my dick.
The guy who threw his gun in his holster.
They carried
that is not a factor in my decision. If I'm concerned about my gun going off in my holster or while holstering or reholstering, I have substantially bigger problems. So I don't have any concerns about that. So not to say that it's not a consideration that might fit your life, but it's not one that I would recommend to be a consideration.
Were they carrying the P320?
The Moody gun.
Speaking of the shooting in the dick, I know there was a trend that was going on to where people would actually take their gun, point it at their dick, and then see how far they could pull the trigger. It was like a challenge.
I would not do that.
Stupid fucking challenges, and they would put a round in the chamber and then pull the trigger as far back as they could without it going off. And I saw a couple videos where that didn't end up very well. They were no longer able to repopulate.
Probably for the betterment of the gene pool.
Yeah, I mean, if you're that stupid that you're gonna point a loaded gun at your dick,
That's the shit.
Especially for an internet challenge. Was it children that were doing this? Was it adults?
It was adults. I saw a couple videos of children doing it with like BB guns, but
God, man,
adults. And I saw a couple of videos where they pulled it just a little too far.
I try very hard to stay off that side of the internet.
Hey, what we say? Learning. You learn from others' mistakes. Well, I mean, I like to learn from others' mistakes. Now I know Do not point a gun at your dick and pull the trigger.
People like that are the reason why people call out for gun control, though.
I was about to say that.
What was that guy? What firearm did he have when it went off when he bent over?
Oh, it was the G43X, the one that I carry.
He did the Tom and Jerry screen.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but apparently he had like one of those cheap leather holsters. That's what people were saying. It wasn't the gun's fault. It was his holster. It was just a piece of shit.
Yeah, very rarely do I find it concerning enough to be the gun's fault. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry a 320 in my waistband every day, but
Howard.
Just in
Howard.
there are I'm more inclined to believe it's user error.
That is the staple of guns in this country is the P320. All right, it's good enough for the police. It's good enough for the military. It's good enough for us. I think everyone should
Two of
carry
the
it.
lowest skilled shooting populations in this country. Those are not.
That's right. Yeah.
Actually, I heard why that happens.
He throws it down.
right.
Yeah.
Look, he dressed Look, the lady put her gloves on and try to look at him.
Oh
Yeah.
man. It's
And
like
that'll do
awesome.
it.
She's like, let me see.
Jeez. All right.
It's just funny how the dog hopped off the chair.
Get the
That's
awesome.
like, what the fuck is going on
But-
here?
I actually did some
It's
research and I
frozen.
found out why that happens with the P320.
Yeah.
Do you know why that happens with the P320?
No.
So-
Well, they said at first it was the trigger.
No, so the spring, right? It basically has a rounded end, but the plate that it sits against is a flat plate. So when you bump the back of it, or if anything bumps it, that spring slips off, causing the round to go off. And SIG has fought hard, tooth and nail, to say that it is not a bad design. They've had like top tier lawyers like fighting lawsuits and everything, and the issue they've had is when that people suing them have had is finding an expert, because of the definition of an expert. They've been able to basically kick off a lot of experts that people have hired to explain why it's happening. But yeah, the spring has a rounded end going against a flat plate under tension, and so when something hits it or bumps it, even in the slightest, that spring slips, causing the gun to go off.
Yeah, but at first they were saying the actual weight of the trigger when it dropped, it the force of it made it. The trigger.
Well, they had a recall program for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they got that rectified pretty quick.
But they couldn't do the other thing. That should have been rectified when they did the first.
That's a hell of a thing to have a recall on, though.
If it's a fundamental flaw.
I think the P320 is basically it's basically a rebrand of a different one a different SIG they had. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a striker fired 250.
Yeah,
the 250 is a double action only 320. Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it
I
was.
saw one of those in the flesh the other day. Some guy was shooting it, and I thought it was a 320, and then the back plate popped out and slammed forward, and I was like, didn't know how to process it. And it's a hammer fired gun, and the back plate, the hammer looks like the back plate of a 320, and it'll mess with your brain if you see one in real life. It doesn't make any sense.
Josh, can you look it up?
There goes SIG again.
Look up what?
What was the name of the handgun again,
It's
Josh?
It's a P250.
P250.
Yeah, they basically rebranded the P250, took away the hammer action, and then and I think basically just said, "Here you go." Yeah, and
Made it a
how the
striker gun, yeah.
yeah, and how the military contract worked with that was just they fucked Glock over hard.
Oh yeah, that's right. The all the
I
issues
stand
with
right on the
negligence
military
charges,
contracts.
and then the military, and then SIG, they signed that contract.
Well, SIG was having issues during the testing, like the military testing, right? They were having issues during it,
Mhm.
and the military allowed them to fix those issues, whereas Glock had a perfectly, operating
That's pretty cool.
firearm.
The
And-
Maryland flag.
They were like, "Yeah, you can fix those issues." I actually want to do that to my
Yeah.
Glock,
Well,
Do what to your Glock?
the Maryland flag.
Oh,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
I want to put this on my AR
Mm.
into a Brotherhood symbol. Get it lasered on there.
just get it tattooed right here, man.
Yeah.
Show
Like
your
a shooting
commitment,
star?
Dimitri. Yeah,
It's
show
not a
your
lifestyle
commitment, man.
gang.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that'll change it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Spend that money on ammo.
It's not a lifestyle; it's a gang.
What I tell you? No.
Every
I'm
dollar
gonna
that's
do
not
this
going
again.
towards ammo is a dollar you're not getting better with.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just got tattooed today, and and like literally on Monday, I was sitting down with my wife, and I'm like, I could buy a battle belt and my mag carriers and holsters with the money I'm about to go spend, but I didn't want to cancel on the guy like 4 days before the appointment.
Mm.
So I was like, all right.
How much
was it?
ammo could you have bought with that
This-
tattoo money?
It was $600.
You could have bought
Well,
a
that's
lot
like-
of ammo with that tattoo money.
Yeah, that's like
It's what,
2,000.
2.5 cases?
Yeah,
You certainly got your priorities in order, Dimitri.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now we know
So-
who's really dedicated.
Right?
Well, it's a
Go get
decision,
another
right? Like you
tattoo,
gotta,
loser.
like there's nothing wrong with it, right? Like you obviously live your life, right? Whatever you want
Yeah.
to spend your money on, we're grown adults here, but it is something that like over the course of my shooting career, I've really had to decide, like, do I want to financially prioritize this? Like the amount of money I spent on alcohol the first 2 years I shot was zero. Like, because like, how many rounds can you buy for a 6-pack, right? Like, do I really need to go out with my friends tonight, or can I meet them at the range in the morning? Like, and that's just financial considerations that have paid dividends in skill ceiling, where like I'm very proud of the fact that I made master, and I'm very proud of the progress that I've made up to this point in my shooting career.
Yeah,
But
you're
it's
accomplished,
bought
man.
and paid for.
Mhm.
That wasn't
Yeah.
handed to you, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely not. And there are some, and it really isn't for anybody, right? If you talk to anybody in the shooting sports who is at the master level, or especially grandmasters, and you talk to them about the time they're putting in, some of them will downplay it until you start to really get into a conversation. They're like, I didn't shoot a ton. And you talk to them, and it's like, oh yeah, they did 3 hours of structured dry fire every night, 6 nights a week. Like, yeah, that's a huge time investment, right? That's a part-time job.
Yeah.
So like it's not something that just comes naturally, right? There's nothing natural about controlling miniature explosions 3 feet in front of your face. Like
never
it's
thought
a
about it.
learned behavior, it's a learned skill set that we have to, one, obtain through time and resources, but also to maintain, to continue to compete, to continue to keep yourself focused and motivated to continue to improve is all stuff that takes a decision. You have to make that choice to say, hey, I'm getting good at this, and I'm willing to sacrifice things for it. Not to attack your tattoo. I'm sure it's great. That's not
I
what
was
I'm trying to get
attacking
at
it.
here. But
Rob always attacks my tattoos.
You should attack his tattoo.
I spend a little too much.
See, that's a GM's worth of tattoos right there.
Right? And the one he
You're
got
not kidding.
look like Ninja Turtle hands.
I saw.
Hey, they're mine.
I'm messing with you, man. It looks cool, man.
It's
I got a
actually
few
5
here.
fingers.
It's not like his shit.
No, Austin, show us your grenade.
Just wait until you see this.
Come on.
Okay, all right. I had to give the story first, right? I won this tattoo in a raffle, which was my first mistake.
A
The second
raffle.
mistake was when I told the guy I wanted a grenade on my elbow. He asked me what a grenade looks like, and I thought it was a good idea to continue with the tattoo.
You sure did.
It's grenade like.
Yeah.
That's
the
the
pin.
that's the pin.
Grenade adjacent.
Yeah, right.
It's like right on your elbow too, man. I know
It's
that.
not even, it's not even fully on the elbow. That's what pissed me off the most was the fact that I can't see what he's doing, and I told him I wanted it on the elbow. That's not even fully on the elbow.
He made a life decision for you, Austin. He scarred you for life.
So 2 lessons there, right? If your tattoo artist says, "What's that look like?" Reconsider your life. Number 2, if you win a tattoo in a raffle, don't do it.
A raffled tattoo, bro.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
He's like, yeah, I'll do your tattoo for free for you. Like, yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
They have no reason to put any effort into it.
Like, can I get the money instead?
So I still say that I never won any raffles that I've participated in because I take this as a loss.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, the Legion has a raffle for a pistol, an AR, and a shotgun every single year.
Oh, nice.
And what was it, last year or the year before? I was one fucking number away to winning. I forgot what kind of AR it was. I think it was
a piece of shit stag arms.
No, it was a Delton piece of shit.
Delton,
It was
yeah.
a step down.
Hey, I built a lot of Deltons during COVID, all right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you built them better than, you know.
Don't you talk trash on Deltons. You piece of shit. Fuck your tattoo.
That's a
Deltons don't have
$300
a,
offer right there.
Deltons don't have a chrome line barrel and chamber, does it? I don't think so when you would buy them.
Oh, I don't know. I got rid of all mine.
See, smart man.
Rightfully so.
That's ammo. That's ammo.
Life decisions, man.
It all
It's
goes
all
back to the ammo.
See?
Oh, shit.
That
My
Happy
house
Meal,
has a
that's
lawn
13
chair.
rounds.
My house has a lawn chair and a mattress because it's all ammo.
Hey, I'm telling you, man. When I got this apartment, I was like, do we really need a couch?
Asian
Sit
style,
on
dude.
the ammo, right? Sit on ammo cans.
See, I'm glad someone understands where I'm getting at here, all right? It's all ammo.
Hey, if you buy enough, eventually you can make a recliner out of it.
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Change that perspective, right? You want to go like,
Yeah.
gas dropped 3 rounds today.
Dude, I just spent all this money on new couches. I'm pissed. I should have just
Should have just bought ammo.
The wife and the kid would have loved it.
I'll tell you what, though, that's something that I see a lot of people doing nowadays, and I think it's partly because of the popularization of 2011s, but I'm seeing a lot of shooters rolling up with really, really expensive rigs and thousands of dollars in their holsters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to load up, and they've got Scorpion imported Serbian 115 grains. And
Oh yeah, brother.
yeah, and it's their first time ever shooting this gun, and I'm like, dude, like what you could have done to save that $5,000 gun for down the road in your life, and buy a $700-800 gun, still a very nice gun. You can buy a real nice gun for $900 these days, and then put all the rest of that ammo or all that into ammo, and then maybe save $1,000 for classes,
Mm-hmm.
you can attend some really nice classes for $1,000.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of, I don't know, I think backwardness in people who are getting into shooting, where the emphasis is on the firearm and not necessarily the tool behind it,
Yeah.
which is so much more important.
Yeah, you
I
can get a
think
high point, you know what I mean, and then
I think
work your way up.
$700 would get you a P320. You know, we talked about how great those were. You know,
You can get a Legion on Gunbroker right now for 650, 700 probably, if you're paying attention to the auctions.
Mhm.
I mean, you can walk into a local gun store and buy a used Glock 17 for $300, and you will be off to the races. Like
Yeah.
So
it really is what you want it to be.
what guns did you try before you settled on the Legion?
Yeah, so I shot a Glock 17 that I paid so much money for because it was December 2020.
Oh, jeez.
Mm.
Yeah, it's an $850 Glock. And so I shot that for a really long time, and then I went to the Legion, got a master rating there. I went to the M&P 2.0 for a really long time, and got a master rating there, and then went back to the Legion, shot that for a while. I shot the Canic Rival, and I shot the Rival Steel Frame. Did not like that for a year, and then back to the Legion, and now back to the CZ. So I've sort of been bouncing all over the manufacturers.
Would you ever try with a high point of Taurus?
You know, if someone was like, "Hey, here's one, go for it," but a Taurus is what, 800 rounds. A high point is what, 500, 600 rounds. Like, I could get a lot better with 500, 600 rounds. You know what I mean?
Imagine how people would feel if you came there and cleaned up with a high point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, beat them so bad you make them want to quit, man. No, that really is part of the fun, though, man. Getting out there with your buddies, and there is nothing like beating the guy that you've been trying to beat. And there's also nothing more motivating than getting smoked by the person you know you're better than. Like if you're losing to someone, you're like, I know I am a better shooter mechanically. Like I know I have the experience, I have the understanding of what I need to do, and I'm not executing on it. Man, that is such a powerful motivator. And nothing against the person winning, right? Like if I'm getting beat, kudos to you, man. Like absolutely 100% you're putting in the work. Proud of you for it. But man, am I going to do my damnedest to make sure I beat you next time. Like, and that's what I love about it, is the camaraderie and really there's very few places I think that adults can go up against each other, right? And shoot head to head or compete head to head. And it really is like a sense of pride for that person if they win. But also like you know that you're going back next week for the rematch, right? And I still have love in my heart for those people. They're still great shooters that are out there beating me. So it really is it's a cool community too. And there are some bad eggs. There always are in the shooting sports or in any sport really, but it's very rare where almost universally the person you're trying to beat is probably rooting for you.
Just to motivate them on top of it, right?
That's a good. I like how that is, where the kind of the culture in this, in this area is kind of like that. What's up?
So someone in the chat, O'Dale rules.
O'Doyle rules.
Yeah. So
he's saying I beat you.
So that's my buddy Taylor. She just made A class. So yay Taylor, let's celebrate her.
Taylor.
So, but I'll tell you what, she's actually a great example that comes to the top of mind right now is like she has really been grinding, and she is increasing her skill level very, very quickly. And so I used to whoop up on her weekly. And now she's beaten me the last 2 or 3 times we shot against each other, right? and I am very happy for her. Hey man, that's awesome. Like good for you. She's putting in the work and it's yielding rewards. But man, am I gunning for her. I'll tell you what. Now she shoots carry optics, I shoot production. It's a little bit different, but no excuse to get beaten by an A-class scrub.
Maybe she would like to hop on the podcast one day.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I like that good, healthy competition. And maybe y'all can both come on here and cut it up a little bit.
Yep. And her fiance, boyfriend, long-term significant other, just made Grandmaster, and I think he's probably in the chat here too somewhere. So Dave, if you're watching, congratulations. He's a newly minted Grandmaster.
She said she got you 4 times.
Is that Backwoods Mayhem?
It might be. Judging by the comments, that's in line with his personality, so it might be. But and again, Dave's another one of those guys where I've beaten him one time because he shot like 6 no shoots on accident. But I'll tell you what though, what a motivator. Watching that guy shoot, to be like, hey, if that's what's capable, like I'm coming for you. I'm not there yet. I haven't invested the time that he has to get to that level. But man, that's what I'm gunning for. And I think that's just the coolest thing. And maybe that's just me nerding out, but I just think it's so cool to be able to hang out with people both better than you and people on the other side who are looking at you, who are like, hey, I'm coming for you. And to be equally supportive and competitive. And it's not always like that, but you find your community and you find those people who push you.
Yeah, man, that's awesome, dude. They love you so much that I don't know if you can read the chat.
Oh yeah, they're gonna make fun of me mercilessly next week. Next week they're gonna be like, "Yeah, you have feelings, you loser."
You went feelings.
Yeah,
Picture didn't happen.
But you know what though, like if you ever shoot a match with Taylor and I and Dave is a nice guy. Dave is genuinely a good person, but Taylor and I were a little morally gray, and so we'll chirp each other pretty regularly. But there is nothing that will push you mentally to like stay in your game, to stay 100% focused on what you have to do, than someone that you know is currently beating you, chirping you about how much you suck right as you're about to shoot. If you can like stay in that lane, and to be able to mentally tune that out and still be able to perform, that it's just so cool to be able to do that. And then at the end of it, turn around and mess around with them and have a good time.
Yeah. Being able to compete against friends is it is a blessing to have that ability to talk shit and everything, but then go and share a beer later on.
It's a lost art, man. People you can't talk shit to people anymore. They get so butthurt about everything nowadays.
Yep. Yeah, it's a fine line, right? You gotta be careful about who you do it to, right? And I always tell everybody I make fun of too at a match, like if you actually suck, I'm not gonna tell you suck. All right, I'm not. I'm gonna encourage you 100%. Like keep going, dude. I've only met a handful of truly bad shooters. I've met shooters at all different parts in their journey, but the amount of people that I would classify as bad shooters, very, very small number. And I'm not going to give those people who are still early in their developmental journey a hard time. Like those people need encouragement. They need the pat on the back. They need the, hey, there's the always next stage conversations. But when you meet someone who can technically perform, that's where you get to have a little bit of fun with it.
Man,
I'm being played out as like your Grammys.
It was the
time's over.
Last video. So, did we get into? Let's see here, the preparation, training and preparation for competitions.
We asked. Yeah, we asked that.
All those you guys, you have the list, right?
I don't. I do, but I can't get it because it's on my phone and I'm using it as a camera. I need to put that shit in my notes.
How do you? Let's ask this last one, technical or the second to last section, technical and tactical insight. How do you approach stage planning during a competition, and do you have a specific strategy?
Yeah. So step one is, and this is straight from Steve Anderson, so I'm not plagiarizing. He gets full credit for this. So I'm going to analyze the stage. Where do I need to go? Where is required of me to go? Where can I see targets that I can't see anywhere else? And then look at what's the most efficient way for me to get through this. What does my round count look like? So factoring in those things first. So where do I have to go? What does my round count look like? Where do I need to reload? The second thing I'm going to do is memorize. So I'm going to commit to memory. I need to go to this spot to engage these targets. I'm going to go to this spot and engage this array of targets. Build in the contingency plans. If I miss this deal, I need to hit my reload here instead of later in the stage. And then the last thing I'm going to do is visualize. So I'm going to play that stage in my mind and get as many repetitions on the stage physically, and then burn that in mentally so that I can replay that stage even when the walkthrough period is over and other shooters are currently on the stage competing. I'm still able to play in my mind what those positions feel like, what they look like, what those arrays look like, in order to execute that on it when it's my time. Because when it's your run, there's very few circumstances where you get a second chance. So when that beep goes off, it's whatever you're able to produce on demand.
Okay, so they let you take a look at the stage prior to the competition. Okay.
Yeah, so depending on the match, like at major matches in USPSA particularly, you'll be able to walk the stages ahead of time. So at nationals, I'll get there a day early. I'll walk the stages in my first zone, go through that process, begin to build my stage plans the day ahead of time. And then when you get onto the stage, the range officer will read you the specific instructions for the stage. And there's a very official way that they have to read it and a very specific script that they're following. And then usually it's 4 minutes. It can be shortened depending on the size of the stage, but usually it's 4 minutes to inspect the stage. And that's your chance to go down, look at any activator sequences, look at any targets that may be weird to you. And that's where you really get to ingrain like what you're going to do on that moment, because things change, right? It rains. The sun happens to come over the berm and you're like, whoa, that target looks very different at 8 a.m. on Saturday than it did on 2 p.m. on Friday. And that gives you your chance to get that final visualization in.
Yeah. So last week we had a little talk about disqualifications. Have you had any disqualifications? Any funny reactions with that?
Yeah.
We had a good story last week about a little funny story from a disqual. But what if you have? What was it for? And how did you handle that?
Yeah. So the only DQ that I've had in a match really wasn't a DQ. It was a weird situation before I knew the rules. I shot a stage and an RO who was not running me, they were not on the stage, saw something from the parking lot he didn't like and ran over to DQ me. And this was probably my 4th or 5th match in. So it was like a very, like I was new. I was still very anxious about everything. And so it was like, do I contest it? Do I not? In hindsight, I 100% should have contested it. The only person who can make that decision is the range officer that's right there. There's no way you can make that judgment call from the parking lot. And then I have 2 other DQs on record for ammo in the safe area, which were intentional to throw out a particular score in the classification system.
What it looks like O'Doyle Rules had DQ'd
She
you.
was the RO that DQ'd me for ammo in the safe area.
I thought you were going to say from the parking lot.
No, she did not DQ me from the parking lot.
Yeah, that must have been an awkward beer hangout after that one.
Oh, not at all. It was to my benefit.
Yeah.
So I needed
Mistakes
those
happen.
scores. Yeah, I needed those scores not to be recorded for the way the classification system works. It's a broken system, but Essentially, it would have hurt me for them to be submitted.
Mhm.
So I could either not complete the match or put a round in the safe area afterwards.
Oh, so the DQ helped you.
You was playing
Yes,
chess that
yeah.
day, huh?
Yeah, it's just a numbers game, and there's arguments about whether or not that's sportsmanlike, whether or not it's not. But like there is a numbers game to be played when you're looking at percentages and how the classification system works. So
So
it's just how it happened.
You're saying if you ever have a bad match, just DQ yourself?
Yeah,
It's like wrestling.
I can see where we got to that. So one, you have to be able to do averages of percentages on the fly and know the hit factor for the classifiers you just shot and how they'll impact your classification percent. I would almost never recommend doing it unless you're looking to game a very specific percent on very specific classifications. So, yeah, if you're having a bad match, just suck it up. But if it's a classification based thing, like if I shoot a trash match, like I'm not going to DQ myself for it. These were just classification specific matches that it wouldn't have benefited me for them to be submitted.
Gotcha. So DQ myself every time I'm having a bad match.
What was the hardest match you ever had? Like and what I'm talking about is like if you were neck and neck with somebody.
Mm-hmm. So, the one time I was neck and neck, it was against Peter Woolard at this year's Western Pennsylvania sectional, and so I track scores when I compete. Some people do, some people don't. For some people, it helps their mental game to focus. That's how I look at it. For some people, it really gets in their head. And so I knew going into my last stage, I had about a 9 or a 10 point lead on him, if memory serves me correctly. And for me, I could throw away 9 or 10 points hiccuping. Like, I am not the kind of shooter who a 9 or 10 point lead is safe. And so I knew going into that last stage, I didn't have to do anything crazy. Like, I didn't have to really, really burn it down. I just had to not blow up, which for me is something that I struggle with as a competitor. If it's a 10 stage match, I'll shoot 9 home runs and 1 absolute dumpster fire. And so stayed in it, and I was able to actually beat him on that stage, fortunately, and secured that lead pretty dramatically. So I was happy with that. And then from the technical side of things, I think the 2023 Handgun Nationals was probably my most difficult match because it was really the first time I had been exposed to shooting not for fun. It was the first time that the match director really didn't care if you had a good time. They cared to separate you based on your skill level. And I was woefully unprepared for the technical difficulty of that match. They had 6-inch mini poppers at 35 yards and whole arrays of targets, partials and IPSC targets and all sorts of crazy stuff way out there. And I was just not prepared to shoot targets at that distance and difficulty for that match. And I really felt it. That whole 3 days was just miserable. There's a picture floating around somewhere on Instagram of me and John McLean, who's a shooter for Rock Island Armory. And him and I were shooting together that match, and we're sitting on the picnic table after a particularly challenging stage, and we both just looked defeated. And so that picture made its rounds because it was just, that match beat everybody up. But it did its job. I mean, it separated people on skill.
Yeah. Push you to become better and help you learn. That's all matters.
Yeah, for sure. And it changed how I prepared for 2024 Nationals. I knew going into 2024 Nationals, I was like, I need to be proficient at shooting long, difficult shots and be able to connect with those with a degree of confidence.
There you go.
So do you know of any do you mind if we say where we live on here?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So in PA, what's the dumbest gun law that PA has?
Dude, PA is actually pretty awesome right now. If I had to think of a dumb one, a loaded rifle in your car is a poaching charge. So I don't personally believe in truck guns. That's just me. I'm a very academic shooter at its core, or at my core. So if you have a truck gun, please don't take offense. But in Pennsylvania, if you have a truck gun, it is a poaching crime.
Did not know that.
Yeah. So they're just assuming that you're out there trying to kill deer.
Yeah. So if you have a loaded rifle or shotgun in your car in Pennsylvania.
I wonder what happened that law came into play. People just shooting out the side of their trucks.
Hey, it wouldn't surprise me, man. Pennsylvania gets a little crazy out west, so
Yeah, all dumb laws are made for a reason. Yeah, someone had to have done something.
Well, not really, because in Maryland they were trying to. We went over the gun law. Thank God it got shut down. But one of the places where you couldn't conceal carry in this bill for Maryland was a drinking fountain. Like,
oh yeah,
what has happened at drinking fountains that a gun should not be there? You know what I mean? Hey, it's my turn to get that soda, homie.
So in Maryland, you cannot conceal carry at a rest area.
A rest stop?
Yeah, you cannot conceal carry at a rest stop.
But you can get a prostitute.
You get a lot lizard.
Well, the reason for that was because on one of the major highways in Maryland, there was a guy that was in the back of his car just plinking rounds off at cars on the highway. And so now, you're not allowed to conceal carry. And
what an asshole!
Yeah, so if you stop at a rest stop,
people like that, dude.
In rest stops, you actually have to remove your firearm, as a concealed carry, and or just not stop at a rest stop,
Like you got
or don't get caught.
Yeah.
In Minecraft,
allegedly.
This is a joke. This is for entertainment purposes only. This is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer.
I am definitely a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer.
Can tell by the hat.
This is my lawyering hat. You should see my judge hat. It's a lot more formal.
Right. So, what grain of bullet do you prefer, or if you have any at all?
Yeah, so if you're shooting a really, really heavy slided gun, I prefer 124s. So like 124 with the Legion was my go-to for a really, really long time. With a lighter slide, the 147s, I'm a real big fan of. Now that I load my own, I can sort of make it whatever I want. Like, if I don't like my slides return, I can increase the powder charge very, very small amounts. I can also decrease overall length to increase chamber pressure. But there's things you can do when you start reloading to tailor your rounds where it really doesn't matter. You can sort of make it what you want. But for somebody just starting out, if you buy Blazer 124 grain as deep as you can stack it, you will be just fine. It will always make power factor. Yep, you will not get DQ'd for not making power factor in a match. You can shoot that round just fine. At your training, at your locals, you can go to nationals with Blazer 124 grain and be okay.
I have some Israeli rounds too. They were pretty good. They're 124 grain.
So
hey, if it works.
So no 115s or
you can if it's what you got. Like for sure. The where you run into a problem with 115 in competition is if you're shooting like a 4-inch barrel, and it's a little chilly that day or a little wet that day, you might struggle to make power factor. Just depends on the load, depends on the gun. The 124s are a safer bet for legality, but if you got 115s and you're shooting out of a 5-inch barrel, you're probably going to be just fine.
Have you ever loaded a round and shot it and be like, what the fuck did I just do?
I went through a phase one time where I found out the impacts of humidity in my powder drop. Where I had a couple of times where I'd have a really light round, and the round left the chamber. It wasn't a squib, but I was like, hey, that's a learning experience. So solve that problem.
Real quick break.
how much do you estimate you have saved on reloading your own rounds?
It's a really tough. It's tough to put an exact number because of the volatility of the ammo market. I would guess I saved roughly 4 to 5 cents a round. So if you're buying, I'm loading right now at 18 or 19 cents a round. If you're buying it for 24 cents a round, so we'll say 5 cents just to be safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because it got expensive. That's what I was seeing all over like Instagram. People that were loading their ammo, they were all complaining that the prices just were skyrocketing because of all the supplies.
Yeah, so I'm stocked pretty good right now. So I was fortunate enough I didn't reload during COVID. I bought the cheapest Serbian imported stuff I could find at 40 cents a round, which hurts to say out loud.
Yeah.
But in the last year, I started loading, and prices have come down a little bit. So getting into loading right now isn't too painful.
So I just did the quick math, and just to let you know, at 4 cents, I did 4 cents a round, 12,000 rounds. It's about $480 you save.
Yep. That I'm going to turn back into more ammo.
Yeah.
So
remember ammo. Okay.
We're buying rounds. When I first got into reloading, I have a community of guys that I shoot with down in Southern Delaware that really helped me get my start in competitive shooting, and they're all IDPA purists, so I don't shoot with them as much anymore, but I still hold them in incredibly high regard. And one of them was like, Josh, when you start loading, man, like, you are not going to save money. You're just going to shoot a whole lot more for the same price. And I have found that to be very much true. I'm still spending the exact same amount of money. I'm just able to shoot more now.
Hey, there you go. Can't beat that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you saved the 480 for more ammo. So.
Yep, that 480 went right back into primers. If you think about it, by buying more, I'm saving more.
Exactly.
Yeah, see?
It's just a snowball effect. You save it, you buy it, but then you save it some more, you know?
See?
Exactly.
You wrong.
That's all.
Rob, you're muted.
I don't know what happened. A vicious cycle.
It's like Fat Bastard. I eat because I'm unhappy, and I'm unhappy because I eat.
Yeah,
So,
I save money because I reload, and I reload because I save money.
It looks like there's actually a USPA match in Thurmont, Maryland. In 11 hours, it says it starts.
Yeah, and there's one in Sothersville, Maryland tomorrow as well.
Really?
There's Thurmont's a good match. I think that's Keanu Sai's match. He's a grandmaster down there. He's also a match director. So he puts on a good show.
Yeah, that's my goal before the end of the year, is to shoot at least one match before the end of the year.
Grand Wizard.
That's my and to become a
Grand Wizard.
become a Grand Wizard by by February.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I can't recommend it enough. Like, you're going to learn so much about yourself as a shooter in that first match.
Mm-hmm.
And just remember, like, nobody will remember your performance. Like, you never have anything to prove in a match. But I've never once thought about a new shooter in terms of how they shot. I have for sure thought about new shooters in terms of if they pointed a loaded gun at me. So, like, there's the safety aspect is just huge.
Yeah.
As long as I just go the whole match without pointing a loaded gun at someone, then I'll be okay.
It's a low bar, but it is. There are some people tripping on it. So
yeah, they do. Yeah.
But then
So
I'll be rememberable. if I do it, then I'll be rememberable, right?
You'll be remembered as the asshole.
But
So,
I'll
like,
be remembered.
when you're teaching somebody or in a competition or something like that, what's the dumbest thing someone has done besides point a loaded gun at somebody?
Oh man. Besides point a loaded gun at someone,
I think that's the worst.
Yeah, I know.
so I guess like, oh man, there have been a couple of things. I got to think of something that doesn't involve a loaded gun getting pointed at somebody. That's a lot of dumb stuff. Like if you can
Yeah.
avoid that, that covers a pretty wide thing. So PCC shooters, pistol caliber carbine, for those people who can't shoot right or can't shoot pistols correctly, they have to put a pistol around in a rifle package. They're allowed to uncase and case their guns at the sides of the stage. Handgun shooters are not. Handgun shooters, it has to be in your holster or you have to go to a designated safe area. And a newer shooter watched a PCC guy case and uncase his gun at the side berm and thought he could do the same thing, and he got sent home early for it. And it's a DQable offense, and it's not necessarily his fault because he's monkey see, monkey do kind of thing. But it is something that, like, if he had read the rule book or if he had taken that second to ask an RO, it could have been avoided. So ask questions, like that's the biggest thing, right? Like of all the dumb things that I've seen, NDs. I've seen a lot of NDs, but
What's an ND?
negligent discharge.
Oh no! Okay.
People sending rounds into the stratosphere. But like, there's never a bad time to ask the question, right? Like nobody is going to be like, that new shooter asked me a question, he's stupid, I can't believe he asked if he could holster his gun right now. Like, we're not going to do that, right? We'll make fun of you in 2 years when we're friends, but like not right now. And so, like, just ask all of the questions, ask 1,000 questions about the most mundane stuff. And like, we will guide you because we don't want you to get DQ. We don't want you to go home early. We want all of us to stay safe. And we want everybody to have a good time. And no one's going to have a good time when you get DQ'd over an administrative rule. So, yeah, that covers most of it. The negligent discharges, that does happen. There are some times where shooters will be focused a little bit too much on the speed, a little bit less on the safety. And that kind of stuff happens. But fortunately, I've never seen one uprange. All the NDs have been downrange that have been on my squad that I've encountered.
That's good.
Here's a question for you. So when you're going to a match, right? Say someone is using their carry weapon as the one they're going to be shooting with. Are they able to carry that weapon up, holstered in their holster, and then, I guess take it out concealed, put it in their competition holster, and then go from there? Or do they have to have it unloaded, everything separated as they walk up?
Yeah, so what I would do is have some sort of gun bag with you. As soon as you arrive at the range, when you go to registration, be like, hey, I need a range officer. I have a carry gun on me. I need to get it unloaded and cleared because you can't go to a safe area because you have rounds. Don't take a loaded gun to a safe area.
Gotcha.
And they'll be able to get you an RO and they'll take you to a place where you can unload and show clear. And then from there, I would bag that gun and then get your rig on, get your holster, whatever you need to get on, and then go to a safe area and put the gun in your competition rig. But yeah, there's actually a rule specifically for that to protect people from getting DQ'd because matches are cold ranges where you cannot have a loaded gun. If you're shooting a hammer fire gun, you can't even have your hammer cocked. Like, your hammer has to be down in the holster. And so they're very, very particular about that. And so there's a rule to protect people carrying at matches. The first thing you have to do is request an RO, and they'll take care of you from there.
Okay. Gotcha. That was something I meant to ask last week, but didn't get a chance to. And now that we have another person on that is very well versed in, competition life, figured I'd ask this week too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good question, right? Because You do not
Yeah.
want to go up to your first stage and be like, oh, I'm shooting my carry gun. And then you go to unload it to put in your magazine of your competition or your range ammo. And the RO DQs you before you ever start the match because you were
Mhm.
carrying a hot gun to the line.
Now, if you get DQ'd, are you able to stay and watch? Say, like, your friends are still shooting and everything. You want to support them. Are you able to stay and watch, or is it an immediate leave the range, go home?
Yeah, so it really depends on the range you go to, and it depends on the DQ infraction. So if it is a blatant act of negligence, the range master, the person responsible for the match as a whole as it's going on, might ask you to leave, particularly if you did something like sweep your whole squad. Those people might not want to be around you for the rest of the day because you just pointed a loaded gun at 13 people. And so the range master might be like, hey, man, you're DQ'd. You're done for the day. You can go home. For most of the time, you're welcome to stick around. If you get DQ'd and you're not a total tool about it, you're welcome to stick around, help out. That is something that will get you remembered. If you're a new shooter and you get DQ'd and you stick around and you help reset the stage and you're still talking with people, that's a big exclamation point, at least on the impression that you're making on your squad. So yeah, for the most part, you're welcome to stay.
All right.
Yeah, that's what Eric said too. To like after the competition, just sit back and help clean up and set up and all that stuff. So it sounds like it's very courteous, you know.
When was your last death pop?
I am very fortunate that I have been exposed and had the training opportunities that have ingrained safety at a very, very subconscious level. And so I have been fortunate not to negligently discharge my firearm. I had one round that I cooked off a little prematurely on an entry, and it went over the left shoulder of the target, but it was still pointed at a target, so we're good.
I thought you were going to say it went over the left shoulder. I'm like, whoa.
Well, I heard.
No, the target.
Yeah.
I heard you can't be a grandmaster until you complete your first desk pop.
I don't think that's the case. I've been the competition world is very safety focused, and so there's almost no room for that kind of stuff because it's so dangerous. I mean, it really is, especially in the political climate of today. Realistically, we're one round leaving a range, hitting a little girl 2 miles away from losing our sport. So it's very, very important that the competitors understand the importance of safety. And once you get used to it, like in the match environment and in the competition space, it stays with you. My local range does weekly courses of fire where it's like it'll be steel night one night, or it'll be you're shooting out of a PVC car the next night. Really, really cool stuff, honestly. But even there, like I don't load my gun until I'm told to load and make ready. Just because it's ingrained that like, hey, I need the entire range to be clear. I need other people to verify for me that this is a safe environment now. So it stays with you even outside of the match.
Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to share a quick story about a negligent discharge. We had when I was stationed at Fort Drum, we had a gentleman. He was like freshly promoted to E5 sergeant, and he was in the headquarters platoon, and he was like, he walked around with a chip on his shoulder. I mean, he went to sniper school, but we weren't a sniper unit. It was just infantry, and so he walked around like he was better than everybody. I mean, he was a pretty good shot. So one day we're cleaning weapons, and this dude goes to the armor to get an M4 or whatever, and he walks over to like some area where the gym equipment is, and then all of a sudden, boom, straight through the ceiling, and this guy like The funniest part was that he was sniper and he was like more proficient with a weapon than anybody. He was like, he always had a weapon in his hand. The gun went off. Neither the armor or him checked to see if there was a round in the chamber, and he was demoted. And
After 1 week.
he had extra duty. Yeah, probably got an Article 15 for that one. And so,
Hey, do you remember?
Happens fast, man.
it does.
Do you remember?
Man.
Do you remember T's negligent discharge story? He didn't do it, but the one that he saw when he was what was it, in Iraq, I think.
In Kuwait.
Yeah, Kuwait. Yeah,
I don't remember the story. Do you?
I kind of.
Remember it? Please share it.
I think I kind of remember it. So I can't remember if the dude was like I can't remember if the dude was Ranger or if he was Green Beret, but he was some spec ops, deal.
SOCOM.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was in his tent, right? And allegedly he was cleaning his weapon. Okay. And everyone there were tents all around, right? And one of them was for classes. And all of a sudden everyone just heard, a gun go off. And this round had gone through multiple tents, right? Including the one that was for classes. Luckily, no one was doing classes that day or training or anything like that.
Yeah.
And when they went to investigate it, the dude was gone. Like he had straight dipped, right? And this is from memory. I could be, wrong with, but he came back and he was like, I don't know what happened. I was cleaning my weapon, right? But when they looked at it, the hole was basically at his, his draw level, not like he was sitting on the bed cleaning it. Like it was that draw, like he was doing draws and everything, right? And accidentally shot off a round and almost did some damage.
Yeah.
Hey, the two things that I hear right before I'm about to see some crazy stuff in a match are "It's okay, I'm a cop," or "Don't worry, I was in the military." like if I hear those two things, I'm gonna stand behind the biggest dude on the squad. I'm like,
well, you saw
are my new friend.
You've probably seen the that video that was going around a while ago. It's the guy. He's an instructor and he's teaching everybody about the Glock. And he's like, yeah, now I'm the only one in this room who is authorized to hold this weapon and teach you guys. And obviously the gun goes off. He's like, everybody okay?
Yeah.
But immediately after saying, I'm the only one authorized.
Yeah, he was a police officer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, though, man. Like, it really is. It'll put some fear into you where you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe don't come to save me. Like, it's okay. Like, it's just, and it's a societal thing. It's a systemic thing. Like, there's any number of issues for it. But for anybody who's listening, like, if you are a police or a military member or you're a veteran, first off, thank you for your service and all of that fun jazz. But do not conflate your professional experience with the technical skill required to compete. So they're two different things. Not to say that you can't achieve that technical skill. And there are phenomenal shooters in the military and in law enforcement. But they are phenomenal shooters who are also in law enforcement or in the military. They are not phenomenal shooters because they are military and law enforcement.
Yeah. I got two stories. So I've been, when I was in the military, I got flagged on the range, but
yeah.
Oh shoot! I forgot what my other side of that was going to be.
Two stories.
Yeah,
we're just talking about being in the military and not really knowing how to shoot.
Yeah, it'll come back to me. But yeah,
officer.
Yeah, I was flagged when you said. I remember what it was going to be. But yeah, when I was in the military, I was flagged on the range, right? But I had just actually watched a video just the other night, and it was former Navy SEAL, and he was competing against just a civilian dude that just throws down a lot of rounds downrange, right? and they were competing in a game of horse, right? Kind of like basketball horse, but with guns. You get to pick the challenge if you win, and then you get to keep picking the challenge until the person beats you. Blah blah, right? And I watched this Navy SEAL dude a lot. Really cool guy. Gives a lot of good tips on rig setups and all that stuff. But in this video, there's a couple videos of it, but this dude was getting smoked by this civilian that just throws rounds down range, right? Getting smoked by him constantly, and the whole time, dude's just blaming gear, blaming everything else, right? Blaming this, blaming that, and the whole time he's just getting annihilated by this dude. And then the next time they were doing a mix of pistol and rifle, right? So they had like a pistol challenge, then they had a rifle one, then they had a pistol and rifle one where you had to incorporate both. And the SEAL had brought in kettlebells and and different weights and everything, right? And he was incorporating that into it. And for a while he was actually winning, right? Until all of a sudden he wasn't winning. And then this dude just basically railed him. And he was like, well, my holster's not right for my gun and all this and that. But, it was just like excuse after excuse. And this dude's just getting blown apart by this civilian dude, And yeah, you're right. Just because you're in the military, just because even for special forces, doesn't mean you're a good shooter, Yeah,
that I used to think like, oh, I'm not that bad. And then, we went to H's. Do you know Henry?
Morissette?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Me and Rob went to go train with him. And then the first day on the range, this dude shot 3 times, reloaded, shot another 3 times. What was it? Was it like in 2 point something seconds? And I was like, oh shit.
Henry rips, man.
I was like, all right. So there's people like this out here.
H 762x39.
Yeah.
V3 on TikTok.
And it's one of those things where until
he's
you're
an awesome
exposed
person.
to it, right? Oh yeah, he's a great dude. But until you're exposed to it, man, you just don't know. You don't know what's out there, right? You don't know what is capable. Like, what can a human being do with a handgun? That is such an open-ended question that we, even with decades of practical shooting experience, we still don't know. We still have guys at the top of the game making mistakes. I mean, if you watch national champions shoot, they're very, very impressive shooters. They are very, very good shooters, but they still make mistakes. So there's still an additional level that we haven't even tapped as human beings with what we can do with a handgun in terms of performance. And unless you're exposed to that, unless you see that, or you're interested in seeking it out, you really don't know.
Yeah, and to touch back on like with the training and stuff, you said you shoot about 12,000 rounds a year. You've gone up to about 20, right? Josh, correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm pretty sure that's more than what an entire unit gets in a year for training. And you shoot just yourself. So, I mean, you're going to be more proficient with putting more rounds down range, and you're going to find out more about yourself and how you shoot and how you handle situations. I don't know how many rounds you guys put down range, Josh, when you were at drum, but I know we didn't even touch 12,000.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's 12,000 was probably like 2 months. I mean, maybe a month. You know what I mean? Like, because when you're in doing a lot of field training,
Yeah.
That
so
cycle.
you were part of infantry, so you probably got more.
Yeah, but as soon as I switched to the reserves, we barely shot. I mean, we did shoot like once a year. We qualified once a year, but there was no other time, not even with blanks. That was the only time we shot. So
yeah,
just familiarize yourself. The qualification table wasn't even like it wasn't a fancy range either. There was no pop-up targets. They put a target that had all of the silhouettes on it, and the silhouettes were different sizes based on the distance. So your 300-meter target was like, like that big, and then your Fast Freddy's up in the front was like 50 meters, whatever, or like huge on the bottom. And they were just like, yeah, so you're gonna put 2 rounds in each of the 300-meter targets and 4 rounds in like the 200, and yeah. So
yeah,
I can't even see that far. How the fuck do you see that? I get to like the 50 and I'm like,
they make sure. So we did with irons, and then once you go to like advanced rifle marksmanship, then you get optics.
ACOG.
Yeah.
the optics.
That-
Yeah,
that-
It feels like you're cheating when you go to qualify. But hey, I'll take it. But it's just like not wanting, at least for me, I didn't want to get too used to it. Obviously, it's going to help you in the long run. You know what I mean? It's like when you're in a battlefield, a combat situation, yeah, it's different. But I kind of have this mentality where I don't want to get too overly used to using like technology and like that kind of equipment, because I know one day it could fail possibly. So yeah, I don't have any optics on my rifle.
I got one for Father's Day. That was the best gift ever.
Nice. Which is,
Man, they're cheat codes.
They are.
if only there was aimbot.
Dude, I'll tell you what. That's going to be the future eventually. When they get those glasses and the dots to interface
Mm.
in 30 years, I'll sit there. Back in my day, all we had was a passive aiming system.
Is it like a heads-up display kind of thing?
I'd bet you in the next 30 years, that's probably what we'll see in the next generation.
It's got your heart rate and everything, and your the wind speed, the elevation, and all that.
The military probably already has it.
Yeah, they have an optic now. It's I think they were like 15 grand each, but basically you just point and the AI on the site takes wind, Kentucky windage, the bullet velocity, all that stuff, calculates it for you, and whatever you point, wherever that dot is, it's gonna go there. It does everything. It's so awesome.
So figure in 30 years if they miniaturize that and put it on a handgun, I could see that
Right.
world.
Yeah.
That would be
By
cool.
then, I think they would have like the suits, like Halo suits or some shit,
Yeah,
because they're already working on them. They have like they have the suits to like help with fatigue for the soldiers, like that they could run longer distances. They could ruck march longer distances. It's just like it's like what was that movie, Elysium or something like that?
yeah, the exoskeleton. Yeah,
Yeah,
the one with Matt Damon.
yeah.
Yeah, man, those things are pretty crazy. So the ones that I saw were only for like the legs. Like it was only to help you like go further distances, like while carrying heavy weights. But really nothing for your
No arm.
Still, dude, like the future is here, man. They already have like some crazy camouflages that are like,
The Harry Potter blanket.
yeah, it's like I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's like a sheet. It looks like a plexiglass, and it apparently bends light like a certain way. So it's almost like you can just see right through.
It's really cool.
Yeah, man.
It's
See, all the Germans needed was crystal meth, right?
yeah. Well, damn, what was it? Pervitin.
Yeah, Pervitin.
They're just hyped up on crystal meth the whole time. It's like they don't need to eat. Don't send them food. Send them meth.
So it's a picture. So the ones that I saw in particular, they ran off of the same batteries that we used for our radios. So, but it took six of those batteries. The batteries are pretty big. They're like I don't know. How would you describe it, Austin?
Um,
those radio batteries. I don't know. It's like a big block of like one of those 2-pound blocks of cheese or something.
yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so yeah, man, it's the technology is getting pretty crazy. Even the thermal and and night vision that I saw on my way out of active duty was pretty futuristic.
I mean, iron sights are already a dying breed. I mean, in the competition space, like, but being a production shooter in 2024 is a taboo thing. I think in the match tomorrow there might be 4 or 5 of us out of the 50 or 60 shooters that are shooting. Almost everybody will shoot in an optic division tomorrow, and we see that played out nationally. There was the Carry Optics Nationals is 500 shooters that fills instantaneously, and Handgun Nationals is 75% limited optics, and 25% everybody else. So it really is. It's a dying breed to be shooting iron sights.
How do you feel about comps being on handguns?
Unless if you're shooting around that has the gas to work it, sure. Or you feel that it makes you better, right? Going back, way back when we started this, right? You are the shooter you believe you are in your own mind, right? If the comp is the mental block for you where you're like, this handgun's not comp, I can't shoot that fast, like, work on yourself, but also shoot the comp. Who cares, right? It won't work well for you in competition because the divisions for comps are purpose-built guns with comps. But if it helps you in your own life, go for it. I don't, assuming you don't lose anything for it, go for it.
You lose ammo for it though, because it costs money.
That's true. That's true. If it's worth the 60 or 70 rounds.
What would you say the best weapon is for home defense?
The one you are most proficient with.
Yep, that's the answer.
Like, it's a cop-out answer, right? But like, I mean, if we want to get really spicy, I think shotguns are stupid in general. But beyond that, like, if you're confident and capable, and you have and you have a high degree of accountability, like, it's your house.
Don't have that on.
You know better than I do.
What if I'm most comfortable with Dishko rounds?
I mean, hey, if you have the legal, if you have the ability to risk mitigate that,
Yeah, right.
I think
I'm
go
not
to
your
like
neighbor.
10 houses.
For entertainment purpose only, I'm not a lawyer.
You can't stress that enough.
But he is a lawyer.
What do you think the best round for self-defense is? Like handgun wise?
Yeah. I'd say anything that passes the FBI ballistic standard that you are comfortable with, and then to stack on top of that, the gun that can carry the most amount of rounds that meets the FBI standard. So if you in your life want to carry a 17-round FNX and you love God's caliber, then by all means. If you are someone who is normal, 9mm is probably going to be your best bet. But that's nothing against 357 or any of the other rounds that pass the FBI standard. I think, and again, this is just me being, I'm a very analytical person when I look at shooting. I'm a very numbers-based guy. Part of why I love hit factor math. But if it meets the standard, the caliber debate becomes almost irrelevant. Like, we're focused on the wrong thing at that point. Because at that stage, it's more of what are you doing with that gun than it is what gun did you choose, if that makes sense. Once it meets the FBI qualifier, just get good with it.
What is the FBI qualifier?
So it's the FBI standard. It's a ballistic rating that came out. I'm going to botch the year. I want to say it was the 70s. and essentially was the program that gave birth to the 40 Smith & Wesson for its short and awful lifespan. And it was essentially the FBI came out with a list of standards based on all the gunfights its officers had been involved in, or agents, or whatever their term is. And it said a pistol round for us needs to check this list of things. It was like there was a denim test, there was an expansion test, there's a penetration through denim test, there's a penetration with no barrier or obstacle test. And pretty much every round between 9mm and 45 passes that test. They perform differently in different ways, but functionally, they're comparable enough. Again, I'm not a ballistic expert. I'm not a doctor. Like, I only speak to the data that I know.
But definitely a lawyer.
Yeah. But the other factor that going back to at this point, what's been a running joke and will probably continue to be like, a 45 round costs what, double what 9mm costs, right? So like, yeah, sure, you could carry a 45, right? God's caliber, man stopper, all that stuff that you heard in the local gun shop. But numerically, from a cost perspective, it's going to cost you twice as much to be the same skill level, as opposed to someone shooting 9mm. You could get twice as good as someone shooting 45 for the same investment.
So do you think a 500 Magnum would pass the FBI test?
It would not. It would not. It would overpen.
So I shouldn't carry that as
Over-penetrate.
Hey, I'm not in your zip code, so it really doesn't impact me. But I would not recommend it.
That's something else I never heard somebody say, over-penetration.
Hey, I gotta get it somewhere in my life.
Well, he's heard it.
They don't call me a fair 4 inches for nothing.
Hey, man. Blue Chew's expensive these days, all right?
Right.
That's ammo, all right?
Do you want your dick hard or do you want to shoot better?
That's why I don't take it. Okay, you get what you get, and you don't throw a fit.
It's not the size of it, it's how you use it, right?
Not very good.
Yeah, the motion of the
Good enough to have a child. That's about all that matters, right?
Oh, there you go. You've done your biological duty. Everything else is just bonus points.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now it's just for fun.
Yep. You get what you get. You don't throw a fit. That's what I say.
I think that's a good way to end this.
Yeah.
It's almost 1 a.m. So
Is it really?
Yeah.
And one last question for any new people who are interested in competition shooting. What is the first step? What do you think they should do to get in that, to break into that?
Yeah, for sure. Get yourself a quality handgun. Go buy a Kydex holster, and go do it, man. If there's one thing I could tell new shooters is just go do it. There's so much ego behind shooting, and there's so much fear of doing it in front of people. It is the number one source of information for you developing as a shooter. And on top of that, you will meet the greatest people in the shooting community. And it is 1000% worth it. I could not possibly imagine where I would be in life without the personal and professional support that I've received through the shooting community. Competitors are the greatest group of people out there, and in my personal humble opinion. So go do it. Go be a part of that family, and come out and shoot with us.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah,
thank
brother.
you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
yeah, Josh, thank you so much for being on tonight,
Yeah,
man.
it's been a pleasure, man.
Yeah.
You are a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, go
Well, I
everybody go
appreciate that.
follow his TikTok and his Instagram. It was Shoot More, Miss Less. And I'll go follow our TikTok. It's 2A Brotherhood _ podcast. And follow us on Rumble, 2AB _ podcast.
Yep, check them out. Yeah, so thank you again, Josh Morgan. We are very grateful.
Absolutely, guys. It was a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime soon. Maybe with another Nationals trophy on my wall.
Hey, let's get
All
Odor
right.
rules.
I don't know if we could legally have Taylor on this podcast. We'd have to see.
All right. Well,
All right, guys. Have a nice night.
thanks.
You too.
All righty.
Once you get into that, you start getting into a situation, the slippery slope, where all of a sudden you're going to really violate the Second Amendment. I don't want to do anything to violate the Second Amendment. To me, the Second Amendment is very important. I love this country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
That was fun.
Oh,
We're still live.
Oh.
Uh,
End the stream. You said